Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show today. The only thing that drives Robbie crazier than a mask mandate is a catch-all liberal protest outside of his studio in the morning, and so we are going to have a fired-up Robbie this morning, no doubt.
Like I said, I'd be extra stabby today.
How many blocks? We had to walk, what, a good 3 or 4 blocks?
I'm just new to this. I'm driving into work for the first time, so this is only my fourth time doing it, so I didn't know where else to park. Y'all don't need to know about this, but it was a morning. We'll just leave it at that. Shauna Thomas and Philip Wegman are in for our Rising panel. We'll discuss Trump's comments on a possible pardon for those imprisoned over January 6th. And Briahna Joy Gray is here to weigh in on new polling surrounding Biden's yet-to-be-announced SCOTUS nominee in the wake of Justice Stephen Breyer's retirement announcement.
But before we dive into all of that, let's turn to the royal family. Prince Andrew has called for a trial by jury in Virginia Giuffre's sexual abuse lawsuit against him. In statements filed as part of the ongoing legal proceedings, he denies all allegations against him, including that he assaulted Giuffre when she was 17 at homes owned by Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. He's also denied being close friends with Ghislaine Maxwell in a legal response to Giuffre.
And in the 11-page court document filed last week, Prince Andrew's legal team lists a number of reasons why they believe her civil lawsuit should be dismissed. One factor they asked the court to consider is the issue of consent. The document says, quote, assuming, without admitting, that Giuffre has suffered any injury or damage alleged in the complaint, her claims are barred by the doctrine of consent. So they're saying, well, we're not saying this happened, but if it did happen, it was consensual, right? That's what they mean by that?
As legal analysts are interpreting this, what they're saying is embedded in this claim is that he didn't know she was trafficked, would be the claim. And
he didn't know she was under. Was she underage? She was.
She was
underage.
Yes, I mean in different states,
right.
Yes and no, but in New York, yes. And so what he's saying is that the discrete interaction, assuming it happened, was consensual within the bounds of that one-to-one relationship because he was not instrumental in the trafficking. Like I think that's kind of the argument that he would be trying to put before a jury here.
Yeah, I mean, not knowing
weird to ask for a jury on that one.
Yeah, I mean, to give this as much possible theoretical credence as possible. It is true that I've covered age of consent trials where the person is on the other end of the age of consent. They didn't know usually the woman was she said she was 18, she was actually 16 or whatever. Usually you still go to jail though for that. Honestly, right. Usually that's not really excused. So I don't know why. And he's making a slightly different claim that so he didn't know she was kind of being coerced into it or whatever the situation was there. I don't know. I don't think that would be very persuasive to any jury.
No, and it's nice to see him have to actually start to make arguments.
Right.
Rather than just
this didn't happen.
Like what all of the other elites in this circle have done, which is just either threaten defamation suits against anybody that mentions their name, or just not have to answer any questions at all. And so this is what you get when people have to actually answer questions about this. Just absurdities around, well, I wasn't the leader of the trafficking ring. I was just a member. It's like, no, tell it to the jury.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's still he's not really admitting it happened. He's saying, I'm not admitting it happened. But anything that had happened, he's saying it in the language, if you're saying it happened, here's what you're saying, and I'm picking holes in what you're saying. But what you're saying is wrong anyway, because I didn't do any of it. Right?
Right.
Yeah, so. We also want to discuss some updates on Russia-Ukraine. The U.S. and Russia are preparing to confront each other at a United Nations Security Council session over the Ukraine crisis. The U.S. ambassador to the UN said the U.S. will press Russia on its massive military presence near Ukraine and fears it's planning an invasion. The head of Russia's Security Council, Nikolai Patrushev, on Sunday rejected Western warnings about an invasion. Quote, at this time, they're saying that Russia threatens Ukraine. That's completely ridiculous, he was quoted as saying by state news agency TASS. We don't want war, and we don't need it at all.
Meanwhile, top Senate leaders said yesterday they are close to reaching a bipartisan sanctions bill that would devastate Russia's economy if it sends troops into Ukraine. And the tensions bode well for firms cashing in on sending weapons overseas. Raytheon and Lockheed Martin told investors last week that escalation in the region does well for their bottom line. So things looking really good for the military-industrial complex. The bill, like even if we don't go to war, at least everybody's shipping weapons all over the place, and that's good for quarterly earnings reports. What's so fascinating about this situation, though, is that Ukraine continues to say, "Look, we don't think Russia's going to invade." Like that's the posture of the Ukrainian government, and they keep saying publicly that the United States is the one that is ratcheting up tensions and bringing the world, or bringing Ukraine and Russia closer to war. What do you read of this kind of gap opening up between what is supposed to be a client state? The U.S. isn't used to this, and the U.S. has been expressing public frustration at the Ukrainian president, saying, "Look, hey, what are you doing? Like, you're a client. Like, if we tell you that there's going to be a war, then you're supposed to just say that
they can't be a part of NATO if they don't just do whatever we say."
Which
they're failing their application test right here.
Which he also made the interesting point at a press conference the other day. He said, "Just get off the pot. Tell us whether or not we're going to be able to get into NATO. Us in Georgia, are we in NATO or not? Because we're in this strange situation where we're ticking off Russia by dangling the possibility that Georgia and Ukraine might be able to one day join Ukraine."
And the answer should be no, because they don't meet the qualifications, because they're corrupt nations.
Well, you could say that
say
too.
no.
You could say that too, but we won't even tell Ukraine that they can join.
Right.
So we're having it both ways, and so the Ukrainian president like, just tell us whether we're in or not.
So it does
And
feel like
then
we're
we can
ratcheting up tensions.
and then we can fight over it.
Yeah. No, I think. Yeah, I think that's right. I think we are ratcheting up tensions. I think our very hawkish mainstream media is encouraging such a thing. Is the constant like anti-Russia posture, which is not to say like Putin is bad. What they're doing is bad. They should not invade Ukraine. It's very bad. We don't have to like not condemn their government, or we're not doing well, blah blah blah. But we're bad. But yeah, we should not have like World War III over this. We shouldn't have any kind of armed forces commitment to this. This is not our problem. This shouldn't be our problem. I don't see what good the sanctions are going to do. Really, I'm kind of not. I'm not very in favor of sanctions in general. I'm very, very unpersuaded that they do a lot of good. Like as a general rule, maybe like limited. Maybe there was some example where you can say, oh yeah, sanctions really helped here. Usually it seems to me it impoverishes the people, which then makes them more reliant on their dictator to whom they're more sympathetic toward, because now it's not their dictator oppressing them, it's us oppressing them.
Right. And yeah, Russian elites don't like to be sanctioned because they enjoy being able to have access to their, the money laundering opportunities that we present to the world here in New York and South Dakota. And it puts a little kink in that. But in general, right, are they going to make their foreign policy based on those annoyances? And there's been reporting from Putin's inner circle that no, that's not going to push him one way or the other on the question of whether they march into Ukraine or not.
One unlikely disruptor force, the Russian Navy, did a U-turn. A fishing community on the southern tip of Ireland won a legal battle against the Russians after the Russian government gave in to appeals from local fishermen who said naval drills ordered by Moscow off the Irish coast could endanger this livelihood.
Yeah, and what was fun, and it wasn't exactly a legal battle in the sense that they didn't like go to court and sue over it, but the Russians were like, "Look, we're doing a naval exercise. Here's where we're going to do it." And these Irish fishermen are like, "Cool, that's where we fish, and we'll be fishing there."
Say it how the Irish would have said it.
I can't do
Better
it.
fish in there, Ruski.
Well, I can give you this one.
Yes.
This is what they were singing as they went out.
You've been spending too much time on TikTok. We learned that last week.
Well, my trick on TikTok is the same as for most old people, which is I wait for the super viral things to jump onto Twitter.
Okay.
And so that's where this one jumped.
All right, we've improved my mood after this horror this morning, having this generic left-wing protest. If it had been a true anti-war, don't get involved in Ukraine protest, I wouldn't have said anything. If it was an anti-COVID restrictions protest, I would have joined it. I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be in the
still
streets
out there with the megaphone.
I'd be with the megaphone. But no, it was
Build Back Better and COVID, and it was kind of a mishmash.
It was just make love not Biden too moderate or something like
yes,
that.
Yes, it would be great if there were actual people in the streets about Ukraine, saying like let's not
do
go
it.
to war.
Let's all do it.
Or if there were people in the streets saying let's stop starving and freezing to death the Afghan people out of spite.
Absolutely. Sounds good. Yes. Go take to the streets over that. We'll cover it. We'll discuss it. We'll promote it. But
although that would have about as much effect as a protest over Build Back Better. So,
well, that's probably true. Well, we'll tell you what's on our radars coming up next.
See you then.